Sometimes some geniuses will be caught smoking that and say, oh, well, this is just a Haverford Zipulop's officer. And it doesn't work. They're very different plans. Bob gets most of it. Well, where's the other person who's supposed to be? Isn't this supposed to be a panel on weirdness by mail? And is somebody else supposed to be on it?
Doug Merrill.
Merrill. Ron Bonds was going to be Dave Merrill or Doug Merrill?
Yeah, Ron Bonds was supposed to be.
Yeah,
Well, it seems like Luce should be on this because he just bought Fact Sheet 5 and he's about to be embroiled in the hideousness of getting unwanted printed matter in the mail. The hard part of...
I get all sorts of it. That's one because I subscribe to that.
Well, we're on so many mailing lists that the hard part becomes where you put this stuff. And I'm not very compulsive about filing things. When it came time to do High Weirdness by mail, I had to just dig through boxes of unlabeled stuff and figure, okay, we got to start somewhere. We'll have categories. And I started throwing stuff across the room into piles to make categories. And after we did the book, that was 5 or 6 years ago. I think just the new stuff is just stacked up in all these boxes again, and now I'm going to have to go through it all over again. We're going to do a revised High Weirdness by mail. I think this French publisher wanted us to. They wanted to reprint it, and then they found out how out of date it was, and said, "Well, we want you to rewrite it." And they offered to pay for the rewriting, not much, but enough. And this time I'm going to farm a lot of it out to some other kook experts. The same ones that contributed on the first book, Waves Forrest and Mike Gunderloy and Mark Johnston of Remote Control. And then this time also Donna Cossey of Allston, Massachusetts. She does a magazine called Kooks that is just great. It's and in fact her address is in High Weirdness under, I think she called her magazine something else then, but it's still the same address. And she goes out and finds kooks sort of by mail who don't have their own organization yet, or they don't have they're not organized about it. They're really psycho. They're really nuts, and she'll like tape record their rants and sell their tapes for them and stuff. Neither one of them really makes much, but it keeps the psychotic material out in circulation. I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be doing here since there's nobody else on the panel. It said something about the weird stuff by mail.
Well, what exactly do you find is weird?
What do I find is weird? Well, a lot of stuff. I have a pretty high tolerance, and I mean, what a lot of the things in that High Weirdness book aren't at all weird to me.
Yeah.
But it's not, I mean, if you write just for people who already collect that stuff, you're not going to, you'll sell 10 books. So it was sort of written for whoever my mother-in-law might think was weird. And that included everybody from Greenpeace, on out. But, and so we didn't say much about Greenpeace. We just said they're real nice and you know who they are already. Here's their address in case you've lost it. So we threw in some but that book was particularly, it was really written as a sort of overview of the just diversity of belief there is. And some of it struck me as being hilariously stupid, and we would say so, but at the same time I try to keep making sincere disclaimers, and that, hey, for all we know, this guy's theory about the demons in the hollow earth may be the one true thing in this whole book. And we're going to wake up in a Nazi hell creature from the hollow earth concentration camp. We won't be laughing at that old crackpot so hard. They hated Christians. They even hated Odinists, which for, there was no God, no nothing, just the white man. That was all they were. You would almost think it was a takeoff, but it wasn't. And they had some kind of money behind it because they published pretty frequently. Big, stupid newspaper. And I had written that they were inbreds, odious, senile monsters, and you could talk them out of a bunch of their literature, it would cost them money. Just don't send them anything. And confuse their mailing list and so forth. And I was, pretty upfront about that. Well, after a couple of, was U.S. News and World Report did an interview with me, a little thing about the book. Well, about the same time, they must have gotten wind of the book and read the little blurb. And so they came out with an issue that said, the Jew-owned newspaper, U.S. News and World Report, which is actually really a conservative, weekly, conspiracy news weekly, pretty much. He goes, according to this Jew publication, there's been a Jew-owned Simon & Schuster book by the Jew Reverend Ivan Stang. And here's what they said about us. And they reprinted the nasty comments I had about him. Then at the end of it, they said, if anybody, we don't know much about this Reverend Stang Jew, but any Dallas, he seems to be some sort of obnoxious talk show host. And then they said, Dallas boot boys should find out who he is and remind him of what some of our other readers did to a certain obnoxious Jew talk show host. They were referring to Al Bird, I think, who was murdered I think it was Colorado. There have actually been a couple of cases like that. So, it was like a death threat. The joke is I'm probably distantly related to the people who did this thing. My name's not really Reverend Stang, and the joke was on them, but I did have, and I didn't think much about it then. I didn't see it until 6 months after they printed it. But then I found out this asshole who has a grudge against the Church of the Subgenius for no good reason had sent my home address and phone number and everything to all the race hate groups that I had griped about in that book. So at that point I had to go to the FBI and say, I know you guys can't do anything, but in case something happened, I just want to make sure justice is served. Here's who hates us. And by the way, I'm sure you already have a file on Church of the Subgenius. Let me give you my side of the story. And wrote him a whole long essay about how we were this intense anti-communist, anti-drug group. And the FBI guys have called up a couple of times. Every 6 months they call up and go, hey, you have any more trouble with them white supremacists? No. Okay, we're just checking. That's kind of nice to know. One time in the Secret Service, very early after the Subgenius stuff was first printed, the Secret Service called up. This was like 1982, and called up my house and said, "Oh, I got your number from the post office. We got some reports from a good citizen about your material. We'd like to come over and talk about it." And I was okay. And I was scared to death. Well, what is this? And it turned out that these two agents came to the house, and they were polite but humorless. And it turned out they had not seen any of the Subgenius material, but somebody some Subgenius in the LA airport had been going around apparently with an old issue of the Stark Fist, doing a Hare Krishna number on people. He would walk up and go, "Have you heard the good news? Bob is dead," or something. And here, look at this magazine. Here, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Here's your flower. Where's my dollar? Kind of thing. Like Subgenius style. And this good citizen, all they remembered from seeing this in the airport was a picture that we've done of had Bob and the Fighting Jesus and the Fighting Elvis and the Fighting Buddha all shooting at this Hydra monster that each tentacle was labeled different things, like conspiracy, the Men in Black, the media, and one of them said Reagan or any president. So it was a drawing of people shooting at the president. That was what the Secret Service heard. And also, on all of our publications, it proudly says, "Made in Dallas, where we teach them to shoot at presidents and at people who shoot at presidents." Hinckley and Oswald, Hinckley, in fact, was in the same English class with the guy who co-edited Arise with. And he said that Hinckley was nobody liked him. But, so the Secret Service guys looked over the stuff and they said, "Well, okay, we see what's going on. This is just, this is not very good taste. We can't tell you not to publish jokes like this about assassinating the president, but these are serious matters." I said, "Yeah, okay, I understand." And they said, "All right, well, praise Bob, bye." And the funny thing was, a week later, People magazine, of all things, ran their only major magazine to run a review of the book, The Subgenius. They loved it. And they ran that picture that that person had complained about so that all the readers of People magazine could see Bob and Jesus shooting at Reagan or any president. Yeah.